And so the project begins. Now I'm going to continue as planned, but I'm going to put a reservation in because several people commented, and one commented quite strongly, that what we could be looking at in some cases, in some places, is a residual film from the smoke bombs. Now I disregarded that on the grounds that the reviews and the blurb that went with it said that it doesn't leave any. So, you know, you sort of go with what you read, don't you? But I did a bit more work this morning, and some of the reviews, when you get deeper into it, say that it does leave a little film. So what we could be looking at in some cases is, yes, there may have been some mould there, because I'm not discarding that. There is some mould around. But it could have become far more obvious as a consequence of the smoke bomb sticking to it, because there was something to stick to, if you see what I mean. I'm going to go ahead with the cleaning program. I mean, this isn't my place and I am obliged to look after it, or it will cost me money whenever I decide to leave. So I'm going to go ahead with the cleaning and I'm going to see how far I get. So preparations, I got my bucket because I needed something of reasonable size to mix up. Now my measurements are based on the conversion from the American thing, which basically said 1 tablespoon to a gallon. Well, a gallon relates to 3.8 litres, and that's an American gallon, and an American tablespoon relates to 14 mil. So I've just bumped that up to make it easier and made the 3.8 into 4 litres and the 14 into 15 mil. That's close enough. So I got my litre jug out so that I can reasonably accurately measure the water, and I got my little measuring jug that's got a 15 mil mark somewhere on there, so that I can reasonably accurately measure that. I've got my hoover fully charged up, ready to pick up bits and pieces on the floor prior to giving it a mop. Now, you remember I said about not using the Vander bucket anymore? Well, the water that was in there, I thought, well, let's use that. You know, rather than water that comes out of the tap and having to get some more water. So I've used what was in there. I've measured it. It was roughly 10 litres. So I put 30 mil of the Physan 20 in there to give me this for the floor, and I will take some out of there to use for my cloths to actually do some wiping. So that's that. This is my accurate mix. That's RO water with the Physan 20 in, so that's 4 litres with 15 mil. That's to go in the sprayer. And then all we've got to do is move some plants and get a shelf outside and make a start. Now I'm going to film this in bits and bobs, so it'll be a bit disjointed, but as I get to a bit, I'll do a bit. But some of it's not going to have a soundtrack. I mean, I don't mind filming the stuff I'm doing out in the garden, because I'm not cleaning the shelves and everything in here, that's for sure. And the first thing I've noticed is that although this is a type of bleach sort of thing, there's no strong smell. So that's going to be a real bonus, because I didn't really want this place stinking of bleach, that would have been the alternative cleaner, and it would have stunk of bleach, and it wouldn't have done such a good job either reading up on it. So that's the plan for today, and I will keep going until I've had enough, because I have been reminded by, again, nice people who leave these sort of things in comments, I do tend to forget. I do have a back issue. Now this is going to involve some lifting of very lightweight stuff. These shelves weigh nothing, yeah? So that's not a big deal. But there's a lot of bending, moving all the plants around from one place to another, you know, turning the shelves upside down in the garden, turning them back the other way. There's bending involved, you know, some twisting, some turning and some lifting. And under normal circumstances, the amount that I do in here is negligible. But this is a big deal. You know, this is trying to do the whole place. Plus, in addition to that, I've got to stand on something to be able to reach the roof and wipe off this plastic up here. Yeah? So there is some stretching to do as well. I haven't got anything else to do it with. It's going to have to be done with a cloth, which means I've got to get up there. But the one thing I'm really pleased about is when I do get up there, I'm not going to get attacked by those dreaded flipping spiders, which is what the smoke bomb was really for. And in addition to that, I know some of the plants have got a residual on, which I thought was mould. Now, okay, it could be mould, it could be the smoke bomb, it could be both, yeah? Because you have to remember, we looked at my plants and decided that we probably had some mould long before I used the smoke bomb. Yeah, that's important. Long before we used the smoke bomb. So what I might do is there is a mix of this Physan 20 that is suitable for spraying plants that might have a bit of mould or bacterial infection or something like that, and it's okay to use on the plants. So once I've done all this cleaning and everything, we might have a go at some of the plants, because it's not all of them. So I could literally pick on a shelf, pick up the plants that look like they've got some signs, take them outside again, give them a spray, shake them off, and then bring them back in here. Because the object in here is to stop the humidity. Well, mopping the floor and having wet shelves coming back in is not going to help, but that will disappear relatively quickly. So a few days of the humidity after all this time is not bad. So I'm going to get going. As I said, I'll film bits of this as I go. I've got my sprayer ready to go, got my mop bucket, I've got to go and find some cloths to wipe off, and I've got my hoover to do the floor prior to mopping. I mean, most of the floor is relatively clean, but there are bits and pieces on the floor, and certainly under some of the shelving, you know, there's dead leaves and things. I can hoover those up prior to mopping, and that'll keep the water in the mop bucket relatively clean. And now, at long last, with the shelves coming out of the way, we can get rid of those manky fans that were wired on, and I couldn't be bothered to take them off when we moved house. But they're not going to get used. I don't want those wires all over the place like I had in the other place, because I can't pin them. You know, I can't sort them out. They'd have to just be trailing and falling all over the place, because I can't attach them to the building like I could in the other place. So we'll get them out of the way, and hopefully in a couple of days it'll all be clean and tidy. And that's the theory. But we're not going to get it done until we've dealt with that, because I'm not doing anything until I've had my coffee, and then we'll make a start. I'll film bits and pieces as I go. Right, break time. I've got so far, I've done a quarter and my knees are starting to hurt getting up and down and my back has twinged, so I'm going to carry on a bit more today, but I'm only going to do, I know this might sound daft, but I'm going to do this half. This is the easy half. It's only got 2 shelves and the table and my rack here. I'm going to move all the rubbish, all these empty pots from repotting sessions that just get dumped on the floor. They're all going down in the shed, so we're tidying up as we go. I will take my table out and give it a good clean off. These will get a wipe over. They don't need taking out and spraying because it's only the metal bits, the wooden bits are okay. So, and anyway, it's got the header tank on it and I'm not lifting that. So, you know, the best I can do is drag that out so that I can get at the floor, being careful with the wires, and do what I can. So the idea is that by the end of today I will reach the halfway point on the roof. I'll have done half the floor and tidied and cleaned everything over in this half. That is the easy bit. These shelves are single shelves. Once we start moving round, we've got pairs of shelves strapped together with wire. They're double the size basically, so it starts getting more difficult. There's a lot more plants on those shelves to move each time. They won't all fit on there, so they're going to have to go somewhere else. That's going to take some working out, and yeah. So that's my plan for today, because if I do too much, then we won't be doing anything at all tomorrow. Whereas if I stop at a reasonable point, having done an amount that I'm happy with, and then rest, and then we can come back tomorrow and have another go. And again, I'll probably do half of what's left, leaving the other half of what's left, if you see what I mean. Because as I said, it gets a bit more difficult. There's a pair of shelves there. Well, if I did that pair of shelves and that single shelf, that roof area and that bit of floor, that's about the same amount of work as I've done today, apart from the fact there's a lot more plants to move and therefore put back afterwards. But yeah, that would be a reasonable amount for tomorrow. And while I'm doing that, once I get over this side, the moss trays are going out, and yet another brilliant idea. Why don't I use my water bottles as stabilisers for these tall things, which is what the moss trays went on there for, because they've got an amount of water in the bottom and they were to help stabilise these top heavy racks. Well, if I put some empty trays down there, I can put some of my full water bottles in there, and that's far heavier than what I've got there now, and I'm utilising stuff I've already got. But what I'll do is I'll use the RO water in those containers and then just fill them up with tap water so that I don't waste the RO water. The reason being, the amount of water I now need is less because I'm not doing the Vander bucket, and I can always add some more water bottles in, but I always throw away some of my water bottles come the autumn because I don't need anywhere near as much for the winter. So I think, you know, 2 or 3 trays on the bottom there with a water bottle in each, and that will make that far more stable than it is now. And then if I do that half tomorrow, that leaves the last quarter, so half of half, and the last quarter is again a double set of shelves and a single set. So I think that'll do for today. And yeah, I filmed bits. I will edit these clips to take out bits like walking up and down and stuff and put that together as a video. I don't need to film the rest now. You've seen the principle. The rest of it is just a repeat of the same really. So I'll put this together as a video, and what's today? Tuesday. That'll get posted probably later on Tuesday, if I don't fall asleep in the chair. And then we will do some more tomorrow. But the next job, clear out all the pots, take them down in the shed. I ought to wash them first, but that's just going to put extra work on today and increase the load, at which point I might pack it in earlier than I would have done. So we'll get rid of all the clutter, get that down in the shed, give my table a wash off, get that nice and clean, and some of the things that are in under here don't need to be in here. They can go on the shelves in the lounge so that there's less clutter around, less things to knock over and all that sort of stuff. So we'll give that a go, and then after I've done right up into this corner, I'll do round this half, this door, do round that, do the ceiling, and I am wiping these panels off as I go, because once I stood on something and got up near them, they have actually got bits of black on them, so I'll give those a wipe while I'm up there. Because it's not see-through, it's not clear glass, it doesn't matter if I'm using a dirty cloth because it doesn't show. However, I have noticed that the windows are absolutely filthy, but to clean them I'd have to get some proper clean water, you know, slightly soapy water, and have a squeegee to dry them off, and then I'm going to get water all over the floor. So I'm not happy about doing that at the moment. If somebody ever says your windows are getting a bit grubby, I'm waiting really for the autumn when the shade netting comes off, at which point I'm going to have a go at cleaning the roof off on the outside and cleaning the gutters out, and I then might start thinking about collecting rainwater. There is a water barrel there, there is an outlet that goes into the water barrel. I suspect the water barrel is full of absolute rubbish and mank and horrible water, so that'll have to be emptied out. I can't just tip that over, so that'll have to be emptied out a bit at a time, put down the bottom of the garden or something, or down the drain perhaps, I don't know, and then I might start collecting rainwater, but that's for the future. So if anybody ever says anything about all this lot was here when I got here. They hadn't made any effort to clean it off, so you know, I could look up and say, well, you should have done that before I moved in, but they didn't. Right, so that's a little video of how I'm going about this, and yeah, all I've got to do is get on with it. And my pots, everything in pots doesn't even need thinking about while I'm doing this. However, the mounts are going to need watering tomorrow. They will need doing, and I don't want to use the sprayer, because obviously the sprayer's got the disinfectant stuff in it at the moment, so until that has a good clean, that's not going near the plants, although that diluted probably wouldn't hurt. But yeah, I'm going to have to water the mounts, so I'll probably water those the old-fashioned way, take them down and actually do them in my clean bowl, because they can have a flush, they don't need a feed. So that's my workload. This is it's warm, because obviously there's a little bit warm out here. It is a greenhouse after all. I don't know what the temperature actually is. Where are my little gauges? Oh, it's only 21, 22. It's not ridiculous, but it's warm enough when you're working. So I'll crack on, get as much as I can done, and hopefully all of this half will be finished by the end of the day. What I might do now, as I've stopped to have a chat and a coffee, is once I've cleaned all this side up and tidied it, I might just film that as the last clip of the day. I'll see how I feel. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. I just hope my knees and my back hold out while I do this, because I don't want to break off and have to come back in a week's time. Because I've got all the stuff mixed up for a start. So I'm hoping to finish the job, albeit over 3 days. And I'll see you next time, unless there's a bit on the end, which there often is. And here we go, the bit on the end. If you have a look at the plastic, and then have a look at the bit I haven't done yet, you can see I've made a difference. Now unfortunately I've just walked round to the little post office, which is was less than a 10-minute walk, but that walk is jarring my back, so I've got a feeling we might have a back issue tomorrow, which I will deal with as and when. If my back seems fine in the morning, then I will go ahead as planned. If it doesn't, I'll leave it a day and rest. But anyway, apart from not doing the glass, I'm happy. You know, there's lots of clean stuff. I've had to clean all the utensils. You know, my mop's had a good wash. The bucket's been cleaned out because everything was filthy. Clean bucket ready for tomorrow, and jug for measuring. And we've got more than enough to complete the job, and possibly enough to do it again, because I won't be able to get that again, that's for sure. That parcel came from Spain as a present from a friend that used to be a YouTuber but stopped posting some considerable time ago. And it's also a YouTuber that I actually met several times, including one magnificent time at Malvern where he turned up. I was there with my daughter, and he basically had a quick chat, and he said, I'll have to go, I'll catch you again in a minute, and disappeared. And then he came back later with this bag which he opened up, and he had the two most magnificent cinnamon buns that I have ever tasted in my life, one for me, one for my daughter, that he'd made himself, because he was actually the one in the hotel that does the puddings. There's a proper name for that. Sous chef, is it? But anyway, he was one of those in a hotel in Barcelona, basically. And those were the best cinnamon buns I have ever had. And they were brought over from Spain, having been cooked, you know, special. So anyway, but he sent this through from Spain. Now, obviously, that came through to the UK before Brexit. So there were no checks, effectively. It just came straight through because we were all part of the EU. So that can't happen again. So we won't be able to get any more, that's for sure. Right, so I'm happy with the project so far. Possibly going to suffer a bit, but that's it now. I mean, it's 3 o'clock. I've been round and got my parcel, which effectively was the 2 flea collars for the cats. I've had a good read, and they've only got natural ingredients. They haven't got any chemicals. They haven't got any harsh chemicals or anything. And they're anti-allergen, and they sound like a good deal, and the reviews say that they actually work, because that's the important bit. So as and when the cats sit on me or whatever, or sit on the table there, we will get those collars on and see what happens. Elvis has got short fur. I've got a flea comb, which works very well on him. You know, you can comb it through and it traps the fleas in the teeth of the comb. And he's had a good comb yesterday and again this morning. Now, when I first put that comb on him, when I realised they had fleas, I got a lot, you know, like 30 odd. Now that means he's suffering. Yeah. The next day I had another go and got some. This morning I had trouble finding any. So the comb has done a pretty good job. But that's totally useless for Mojo, the long-haired one. The comb won't go through half of his fur. The brush won't even go through some of it. So it's totally useless for him. So I'm going to use Elvis as the benchmark. So they both get a collar each. And then after a couple of days, I'll get the comb out on Elvis and see if there's anything left alive. And then if there is, we'll come back in another couple of days and try again. And if after a week we've still got live fleas, then obviously the collars don't work, do they? And I'll just assume that Mojo's getting the same treatment. So that's that. There's nothing else to say about in here, about hopefully, the only thing I will have to do is when I get all this lot out of the way, I'll be able to get at my bag with the embroidery on, and that can come off, and that can go into soak, and try and get it clean if I can. And then hopefully, well, in future it won't be in here. If I can get that clean and make it look nice again, then I won't have it in here, because obviously it's suffering a bit, getting a bit discoloured and what have you. I suspect what's happening is the high humidity is making the cloth damp. And then because the cloth's damp and there's mould spores around, it's getting the mould. I'm going to have to show you this because it's just caught my eye. Now my pinguiculars, I've got a couple that don't flower very often, and this is one of them. Look at that bloom. Is that not stunning? Oh, I'm trying to get the close focus thing to work. That is pretty fantastic. For a plant that does nothing more than eat flies, it has a function here, it's a working plant. It's not here for decoration, but when it puts a bloom up like that, that is pretty good stuff. So there we go, that will do for today. The bit on the end, as I call it. and we'll rejoin the project tomorrow. I doubt if I'll film much because it's just a repeat of what I did today basically, and we'll see how we get on. And if I'm aching and not too clever in the morning, then I won't be doing anything. We'll leave it a day, we'll let it ride. It's not urgent, none of this is urgent, you know. It can all be done at a leisurely pace so that I can still get up and down the stairs and get in and out of bed without having trouble. So see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. But I can't say I hope you've enjoyed this, but I hope you've sort of, well, I suppose I can say enjoyed it, but watching somebody else work is possibly enjoyable for some. But anyway, it was quite hard work today, but that's half the place done. You know, I've got a nice clean table. I've even cleaned off the top of the tank, all cleared up down here, all the mess gone. And I cleaned my 2 bowls and their stands, so they're nice and clean now. So I've had a pretty good go today, and hopefully, as I said, I can split the remaining jobs in 2. So one job is that double shelf and that shelf and the roof to there, which is only 2 panels, and then down the sides. And quite honestly, the plastic this side isn't that bad. You know, I mean, if you look, that plastic all up that column there is clean, hardly needs doing. So I don't think that's going to be a hard task. And then the last bit obviously is the same. It's a double shelf and a single shelf, but because it's the corner, there's an awful lot more plastic to clean, because I've got a side and another side and an area of roof. So the last bit will be the hardest bit probably. But we'll plod away at it and we'll get it done as soon as possible. Yeah. See you next time. I'm going to now sit down, I'm going to pour some wine, and I'm going to put something boring on the TV that I can promptly fall asleep in front of. That's the main purpose of TV nowadays. It's not entertainment, it's something to fall asleep in front of. And it works very well, I must admit. See you next time.